What advice would you give leaders today on building a culture where people feel safe to speak?
You know, in my book, Mission Out of Control, in the first half of the book, it talks about how NASA lost its way, similar to how Boeing lost its way. And the real cause of the accident was a cultural cause. And the second half talks about, well, how do we fix that problem in the culture? And what we learned was, when you have large teams or thousands of teams working together or an organization, if you don't have a psychologically safe organization, it affects all those other attributes of how a team performs. It was apparent that we lost the Columbia and we had problems with the 737 MAX because people were afraid to raise their hand. And so the first thing you have to do is recognize when that's a problem, but now how do you transform the culture? How do you make sure that you develop a culture where people feel safe to speak up? And that's where you develop the learning. And you use the learning part of the program to teach these new behaviors and teach them not just by taking a course on it, but actually practicing it in your organization and then using a learning platform in your analysis and using AI to analyze what those teams are doing. Because when you think about it, if the organization is not psychologically safe, people are afraid to raise their hand. But if you're training AI to look at these behaviors and in the communication on these teams, and it's showing red flags that nobody gets fired. You can't fire a robot.
That's a good point. So AI is sort of like it's spotting these trends, what is happening, like how people feel safe and so on, doing the analysis behind the scenes there.
And it's learning.
And it's learning, exactly. It's like invisible agent. You don't feel negative against someone who is saying you this because it's an AI. It's like machine.
You have to go back to looking at the data. Well, I have the data here. AI is showing you this is how you were talking. You were the boss, and so I could identify from the communication based on how people were talking that you have this status in the company. Why are these other people that are communicating you, why is it very negative this way? And not this way?
Exactly. In Epic Challenge program, we work with the students, but what would be like takeaway for, like, let's say, corporate learning, corporate training from that? Is there any
well, it's directly relatable. You know, because what we did was we had engineering students, for instance, in one organization where at the culmination of all their learning on the 4th year, they have what's called a capstone program where for 2 semesters you use everything you learned and you try to design, build, and fly an innovative aircraft, unmanned aerial vehicle. And so during that process, the students are learning from experts in industry and experts in academia, experts from NASA, and we're watching the students use these tools and we're watching how they use them on teams. Because whenever you solve a problem, it's not one person solving the problem in these organizations. It's hundreds, maybe thousands of people. And so we're watching them use the same processes that they would use in industry, going through the same product development life cycle. So it's mimicking what they would be doing working at Boeing. And so all the information we're gathering and analyzing on these students' behaviors is very similar to how large organizations would actually perform and behave. Plus the students were distributed geographically around the country. So they were forced to use a learning platform. And just like a large international corporation, you have people around the world. How do you do that effectively? And so it was a lot of information. So the algorithms that we're developing for learning and analyzing that information would be directly applicable by building those algorithms and verifying them with students. You then take that to the large corporations. And because large corporations fail because of culture. And when that happens, like a Boeing right now, wouldn't it have been nice if they had all their engineers on a nice learning platform? We were analyzing that behavior over 10s, 20 years, just like at NASA, and you could watch and analyze that culture and you can identify key problems before they happen.